Many thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. Welcome to beautiful Bali, Indonesia. I have been here for the past couple of weeks hanging out with my friend Daniel. Kind of an Indonesian island hopping escapade. It's been absolutely incredible. As you can probably hear and have seen from some of the B-roll already, I'm at one of the most fantastic waterfalls in all of Bali. There's one behind you right now. There's one right behind me right now. There's a few on the other side. This is a location I've wanted to come to for quite a long time, and I couldn't be more excited. So I just got to this location a few moments ago. I'll turn you around here real quick. Obviously, this right here is the star of the show. I've had this waterfall on my bucket list for quite a few years now, and I'm a little overwhelmed at this moment, to be honest with you. I couldn't be more excited to start photographing this, but trying to stay calm, really just take in a lot of the different qualities of this waterfall, and just trying to figure out the best way to frame it, as opposed to just whipping out the tripod, plopping it down, and starting to just fire away. So I think I found a composition I like, getting close to that foreground area right there, and of course you have the beautiful waterfall in the background. Wanted to move a little bit further away to try and get away from the sounds of the waterfall. Hopefully you can hear the audio a little bit better. Hopefully it's not too bad. But now that I kind of moved around a little bit, I took a couple kind of quick test shots. They're out of focus and everything, handheld, but it gave me enough of an idea to see if it was worth, getting out the tripod, getting something kind of perfected a little bit more. And I think this one has potential. So this is kind of gives you an idea of what the composition looks like right now. Let me rotate the polarizer too, so you can just see what it's doing. That's really no polarization, and that is with polarization. So yeah, actually right there, it's max polarization. And I think that looks really good. And you can definitely tell in the greens as well with that polarizer. It's kind of hard to see on camera really, but it's definitely making a difference. So, and I'm almost at fully wide open. This is my 20 to 35, which is really like a 16 to 35, but almost completely wide open at 20 millimeters on a medium format. But so far, I'm really liking the way this is coming together. Now I'm just going to play with a bunch of different shutter speeds to experiment, see what works perfect. So now I'm really just experimenting with different shutter speeds to try and figure out what I think works best. What I like to do is really just a game of experimentation. Just take an image, zoom in, and look at wow. Might have gotten it on the first try. But that's what I'm doing, is just zooming into the moving water just to see if it has the type of detail that I want. And go back here. That was at 2.5. We can extend it out a little bit. Let's just do a full second here. Focus, take this shot. 2-second timer, and review. Let's look at this one. See, that starts to lose some of that detail for me. I mean, I think the image still looks good, but I like it with a little bit of a faster shutter speed. So I'm going to go back to 2.5, and let's speed it up a little bit more. Bump up the ISO just a touch. ISO 400, f16, 2-second timer. And let's see what this does. Zoom in. That's looking pretty good too. Now you can start to see a lot of detail in the water right through there, and I think that looks good. So it's really just a lot of experimentation, just trying to figure out exactly what you like. I personally like to have a little bit of detail in the water, but at the same time still show that the water is actually moving. I don't want the shutter speed to be so fast where it freezes the action, shows tons of detail, but it doesn't show that movement in the water. And at the same time, I don't like to have a really long shutter speed because that shows all the movement in the world, but it loses all the detail. So I'm really just trying to play that balancing act and just trying to figure out like what that sweet spot is. So I've moved over here to this location and found these just beautiful flowers that are just kind of dotting this entire area. And just want to use it as a little bit of a foreground interest with the waterfall in the background, because everything is so green, everything is so lush, it looks absolutely fantastic. But if you can find a little bit of color contrast in it all, that really just adds that kind of a little bit of pop that this scene could potentially be missing. I don't know if it's really missing it or not, but it'd be a good secondary composition to play around with. So just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, this is the flower that I'm talking about. As you can see, my camera right there, and then you have the waterfall there, and it have all of this beautiful color leading all the way up to the waterfall in the background. And here is the composition, whoops, right now. See if I can remove that glare a little bit. Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. I'm going to switch it into video mode so you can see it on the actual GFX camera. So this gives you an idea of what I'm working with right here. It's the aspect ratio is a little bit different. Normally you can see the entire flower on the edges right through here, but this gives you an idea. And I got the polarizer on still, and I think most people want to just remove all the polarization. I shouldn't say most people. When I first started using polarizers, that's what I did. But now, since this is, you can see some nice reflection because this is all wet, I don't want to remove all that. I want to save that. But I also would rather remove this area out here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at too, as far as trying to figure out the right amount of polarization. And since the flower is so close to the front element of the camera, and especially with this medium format camera, the shallow depth of field is very, very extreme. So I'm having the focus stack almost on every single petal of this. I'm being facetious, it's not quite every petal, but I did 6 images for the flower, and then 1 for the midground, and of course the background. That's probably a little bit of an overkill, but I've, like I mentioned many times in videos, always better to have too many images that you don't need and throw away than having too little. So I'm going to sit here and take a few more images of this, and then I'll show you the final result. So there's this whole area's got, I think, 4 major waterfalls, or 4 main waterfalls, I should say. And here is another one right here, which is super, super tall. Kind of just a straight down waterfall into a pool. It's got kind of a clean look to it. And it's literally like, I don't know, 20 yards from the other waterfall. I'm gonna go handheld for a minute and see what I can come up with here. This is my favorite way to composition scout. So I kind of like this kind of curvature right here. I think that looks pretty good. Got a lot of the green in the background. There's a little bit of light coming through the top up there. It's not really coming through on the video camera, but it's definitely there. But that's much better. So up here, you get kind of this area here that's not very attractive. But if you get lower to something like this, that area is now gone. And I think that looks like a much better, much cleaner composition as opposed to shooting it more at eye level when you pick up all of that area there. So I think getting down is probably the way to go. Kind of a nice, clean waterfall. All right, so now I'm on a tripod. Just spread this out and get low to the point to where I can remove that area down there from the composition. So let's see. I think I might need to scoot a little bit further back here. Figure out exactly. Yeah. I think that's the ticket right there. Now that all that dirty area right through there is completely removed, and now it's a much cleaner overall composition. It's crazy too, just moving just a couple feet down versus a couple feet higher just completely changes the overall scene. I know a common thing that I used to struggle with when I first started photographing waterfalls. I live near the Blue Ridge Mountains, so waterfalls is like my go-to thing. I love doing it. Whenever I would pick a shutter speed, I would always just pick whatever shutter speed created a proper exposure, and then I would just take that. But when I started to realize that shutter speed can completely manipulate the way moving water looks, which in turn changes the overall feeling of a photograph, it was like a complete mind explosion to myself. So like longer shutter speed creates that smooth and ethereal look. Fast shutter speeds creates that dynamic, powerful feeling. You know, something in the middle creates nice, kind of a blend of both, so you show texture and still show movement. There's so much creativity from just a camera setting on your camera with shutter speed, and I think that was just one of the biggest things that I struggled with. I didn't struggle with it, I really didn't even know it existed. But once I realized that shutter speed is not just a way to create a proper exposure, that really opened up a lot of possibilities for my photography. So another great way to just kind of tell the overall story of a waterfall, it's so easy to come up to a place like this and you throw in your wide angle lens just like I did. But once you capture all the wide angle photographs, if you put on a longer focal length and zoom in and kind of isolate interesting areas, that's a great complementary image to your overall your wide angle photograph. So that's what I'm doing right now. I put on my longest lens, which is the 100 to 200, and I'm just looking for interesting features. There's this kind of rock ledge area where there's water pouring over it. So I'm just going to kind of zoom into that area and just play with different shutter speeds, maybe something a little bit faster, maybe something extremely slow, and maybe something in the middle. But what my hope is I'll have the photograph with the flower, the photograph down there in front of the bottom cascade, and then a longer focal length, and all three of those photographs together create this kind of storyboard that really tells this story of this beautiful waterfall in Bali. So I'm going to record through the camera here just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So there's this area right here that's pretty interesting. It's like the only area among this entire waterfall that has like rocks in it. So there's that nice rock area, so that's automatically unique, something a little bit different. So I'm just gonna come into this area here and just play with different shutter speeds, play with different compositions. I might end up cropping it in a little bit for a little bit tighter, but that's ultimately all I'm doing, is just looking for an area that's a little bit unique, that sticks out a little bit, just to create a more intimate scene or a more intimate version of that photograph. So I do hope that information is helpful. That was by far the biggest thing that I struggled with shutter speed, is just thinking that shutter speed is just a means for creating a reasonable exposure. But once you start to embrace shutter speed as a way to create mood and to show overall drama and tell a story of a photograph, your overall images will definitely change. So before I do wrap up this week's video, I just want to say a big thanks to the sponsor of this week's video, which is Squarespace, who I use for all of my website and e-commerce needs.
Squarespace provides a dynamic and attractive online platform to create your website. You can display your photography using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs and customize the layout and look and feel of your gallery just so you can make it your own. With Squarespace's traffic overview feature, you can track trends in page visits and views to better optimize your content, and you can even grow and engage with your customers with Squarespace's email campaign tools, which will enable you to create engaging emails that match your website with your products or blog post and logo, just so your messaging remains consistent.
So if you're looking to start a new website or possibly upgrade your current website, check out squarespace.com/Mark Denney for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and as always, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time here with me today. I've absolutely have dreamt of coming to Bali for a very long time, and to be able to film a video, something that I can go back and look at in the future just to remember my time here, is absolutely super special. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.